All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone who has been able to join. My name is Luke Arthod. I'm a customer success and media representative for PCT, and I'll be walking you through the soil sampling process as well as our new soil sampling app. And then we'll be fielding some questions around that process as well at the end of the webinar. So we will go ahead and get started. So this webinar will be recorded and shared with participants after the meeting. So if anyone registered, they will receive a recording of this webinar. All the participants will be muted during the presentation, just for avoiding any accidental interruptions. We will have a Q&A period at the end, and you can ask questions either by using the Q&A function right next to the chat. So if you are going to type out a question, please use that Q&A just so we can keep all of the questions in one spot. Or if you would like to be unmuted to ask a question, please just use the raise hand feature and we will try and get you unmuted for that. So here is our schedule for the webinar today. We're going to start with just an overview of the sampling process. And then we will start with grid sample plans, and we will show zone sample plans as well as how to create and manage those zone boundaries. Then we'll show the PCT sampling app and how to navigate that. And then we'll quickly touch on viewing, analyzing, and reporting over sample results. And then again, finish with a Q&A. Just for clarification, we did have some questions come in just with registrations about the difference between PCT sampling and then AgWorld. So PCT and AgWorld are partner companies, and both companies do share do have individual sampling functions. So we have partnered with AgWorld for a very long time, and we're in no way seeking to replace a sampling workflow there. PCT's had their own sample process for quite a few years, and just have realized over the past year that there are some new features and improvements that have needed to be made. So we are just covering those new features here. There is an AgWorld sampling webinar directly following this one at 2 p.m. Central. So if you are an AgWorld and PCT customer, we invite you to join that. Also note that this new sampling process and app is new, so we will gladly accept feedback and already have from a few customers. So with that in mind, please bear with us as we continue to make updates and improvements to that process and app. So just briefly, just a quick introduction to PCT. PCT was founded in Australia and has moved into North America in the past decade or so. And we do partner with many companies to try to provide solutions on data storage, cleaning, management, and analysis for the ag industry. And we are very glad that you all were able to join today, and we'll go ahead and get started and jump into the PCT system. Okay, so we'll begin with just creating sample plans here in PCT. So this is the PCT view tool. This is what you are brought to after logging in, and this is kind of the jumping off point for many of the different functions and capabilities within PCT. To begin creating a sample plan, you'll first want to have the fields selected that you want to create plans for. You can do this on a field by field basis, or you can have multiple fields selected at a time. From here, we will go to the soil data tab. And under the sample results tab within here, we can click new plan. And this gives us a few different functionalities. So after clicking that, you do have the ability to just come in here and drop points wherever you want. These points can be edited and deleted, and you can pull up layers in the background to base these points off of. But as for creating grid plans, we do have a specific feature for that. So we can click this grid mode button, and with multiple fields selected, it will automatically drop points based on a grid within those field boundaries. You can edit those parameters that the grid is based on within this pane here on the left. So we do have options to shift the grid and set a set distance just based on a value that you enter, or we do have a grid size selection here. So you can select just a quick acre amount there to set the points. You can then click and drag the points to manually edit those locations. And again, you can shift those based on values here. You can also edit the numbering of the points. So you can select either serpentine or unidirectional numbering. You can also change the rotation so that you can change where the first point is located within the field, or the starting point. You'll also notice that these points are numbered sequentially across all of these field boundaries. We can set that to restart the numbering across fields just by checking this IDs by field box, and you can see it updated those points. So once this is these points have been saved, or once the points have been planned where you want them to be, you can save them. And if you are doing a grid sample, you'll want to leave this process by zones box unchecked. We'll cover that in the zone portion. So once those are saved, they will come into this sample plans tab, where you can display them and export them as files, send them to Operations Center. So that is a feature we have within here. You can send planned sample points as flags to the Operations Center. So you can click that button, and if you are linked, and if the individual fields are linked to the equivalent fields in Operations Center, we can send those as flags. You can do that there, and you can select a specific color for the flags to display as well. This is also where we will print off a lab check-in sheet as well as labels, or select a sampling lab that you would like to automatically have the sample results or the submittal sheet go to from the app, and we'll cover that more here in a little bit. It's also worth noting that the check-in sheet and labels will be printed off for all the fields and plans that you have selected at one time. So from here, we can move into zone sampling. So we'll come back into here. Again, click new plan. You can have multiple fields selected, and you can click this field zones button to display zones that you've previously created. So whenever it comes to creating zones within PCT, we have a few options for doing so. We can import existing zone layers. So that can be done here within the import data tool, and you can drop in those files and import them. We do have some articles on that process. Sometimes it does require us to attach a text file to those shape files to get those to import. We can cover those questions if there are any on that. We can also create zones based on soil type. We will automatically surface a soil type layer for every field boundary that's created in PCT. And then we also have tools for creating zones either manually or based on existing data sets. Once a zoned layer is in PCT, we can then create zone boundaries based off of that layer so that we know what zone boundaries to process the soil by. That's what's displayed here, and we can manage those zone boundaries in the setup tool. So for each field, we can come in here in the setup tool, under the field editor, navigate to the field, and then click on this zones button. So in here, we can have multiple sets of zones saved. And by clicking these key icons, we can select which layer or which set of zone boundaries we want to have active, and we want the soil results to be processed to. So those zone sets can be named and can have a season attributed to them as well as a crop, and then you can make edits to them within this tool as well. So whatever zone set is selected here within the setup tool is going to be the zone set that is displayed in the field whenever you check the field zones button. We can also display the zone labels within this tool, as well as change the transparency of the field zones. So by clicking the zone mode button, we will automatically drop a point in the largest polygon of each zone. Again, we can check the IDs by field box, and those will be numbered per field boundary. To place additional points or edit the points that have been dropped, we can uncheck the zone mode button, and then that allows us to come in here and drop additional points if needed. Again, these can be edited by dragging, or you can click on the point to edit the ID number or delete the point as well. Then whenever you're ready to save these points, click the Process by Zones box, and that will allow us to surface the zone results to those zone boundaries whenever the results come back from the lab. Again, those planned points will show up here in the Sample Plans tab, and they can be exported or sent, and then the labels and lab check-in sheet can be downloaded for each of those sample jobs. Once a sample plan is created, it will automatically show up on the PCT sampling app, which will be what we will cover next. So before we do that, we do have fully integrated labs that we are currently working with, and those will show up here in the drop-down. So if you are working with one of those labs and want the results of the sampling job to automatically go there through an API submission, just make sure to have that lab selected. We do also have some integrations that function off of a lab check-in sheet. So if you're working with a lab that is not listed in that drop-down, you'll need to print off the lab check-in sheet and include it with the soil. And then that will enable the lab to then send the results back into your PCT account just automatically. So we'll jump into the app real quick. Stop sharing from here. Okay, so this is the PCT sampling app. It is available currently in the Apple App Store and will be coming soon to the Google Play Store. It's just called PCT Sampling. So this operates off of your PCT login. You can log in from there and then view all of your grower, farm, and field boundaries, as well as sample plans that you've created. So to get to a field, you will just select it here from the tree, and then we can click soil sampling, and that'll bring us to the field. We can then, at the top, select a sample plan. So I have both a grid plan as well as a zone plan here. And since I am obviously not in this field, my location is not showing up within it, but if I were, then I would have a blue dot here within the field that would show my location, and then I can use that to navigate to the points. For zone sampling, if you click the layers button here, it'll display any available zone layers that we can select. So you not only have access to the set of zone boundaries that we based the sample on, but you have access to other sets of zone boundaries as well. To display the zone labels, simply click again on that zone boundary name, and the labels will display for the zones. And then click again to hide those. From here, we can also get directions to the field boundaries by clicking the little diamond with the arrow within that. That'll take you to your preferred navigation app to where you can navigate to the field. The button directly below that will fit the map view to the selected field. And then the button below that will take you to your current location. To switch to another field, we can click the PCT Agcloud logo at the top left, and that'll reopen this grower farm field tree where we can select another field. This app will function offline, so you can download these fields and the sample plans from the app while you have service, and then if you're going to an area without service, those plans and fields will still be available. Then you will just need to sync the app once you return to service, and the submissions from your soil sample job will be sent. So once the sample jobs have been completed, stop sharing here. Then the results will go to the submittal will go to the lab, either via the API or the lab check-in sheet, and then the results will be sent back automatically to your PCT account. So then we'll show what that will look like once those come back in. I'll quickly switch dealers here to show that. So within here, we can come to the layers tab. This is where we can pull up those different layers for the sample results. If I can get it to load. There we go. So within here, these will be saved under soil nutrient layer types. So we have those displayed here. So you can select those and filter them down by season. And we can go ahead and load that. You can pull up multiple maps, up to 4 here in the view tool. So if you would like to view either soil result layers or any other layer for that matter, you can view those side by side within this tool. We also have quick layer inspection tools available in here. So there's a measurement tool where you can measure straight lines as well as draw in a polygon and get perimeter and area statistics on that polygon. You can also utilize the layer inspect tool, which operates in a similar fashion where you are drawing a polygon And then on each layer that is displayed, you'll not only get area measurements, but you will also get data points that are contained within that polygon. We also have comparison tools that you can display. So if you would like to compare one layer to another, you can display both of those and then come to the toolbox tool that's within this icon here, and then come to the compare tool. Here you can compare any two layers in the system against one another and generate a report based on those. We also have a soil analytics tool, which would be in here. And here you can compare different nutrients across multiple seasons just by selecting the different layers and the points and generate comparisons between those. We will cover the analytical functions within PCT in future webinars. Wanted to keep it mainly focused on the soil process or the soil sampling process for this meeting. So other than that, we can begin to transition into the Q&A time. Before we exit the view tool, I do want to just briefly mention two things here. So whenever it comes to support in PCT, you can always reach out to us via email. We have the support@PCT email that you can utilize, as well as just utilizing an email of any PCT employee. We also have a chat functionality here, which is probably the quickest way to get to one of us. So you can type out your question or issue from that chat button. And we also have a knowledge base that is available by clicking the question mark button here in the top right. We have multiple articles and videos covering most of the tools and processes here within PCT. So you can navigate to those by clicking through the folders or by utilizing the search bar. So from here, we'll transition into the Q&A time. So if you have any of those, please go ahead and drop them in the Q&A function. Or again, if you would like to be unmuted to ask a question, just use that raise hand feature, and that will allow us to identify you and we will get you unmuted. All right, so it looks like the first one here is from Jorgen. So the question is, can you view the soil sample results for each of the analyzed soil properties and also for different depths if available? So yes, we will surface soil result layers, and you can view those like I showed. And then if you are sampling for multiple depths, we will save those as individual layers so that you can compare them independently. The next one from Jonathan. So can you create a bulk composite soil sampling plan? Yes, you can. So that would be done in the same way where we had multiple fields selected and then used either the grid mode or the zone mode. Instead of using those, you could just drop points across the map and save that plan. Can you also create zones for soil sampling based on yield potential maps? Yes, we can. So we do have the ability to create those yield potential maps in PCT. We can also import any existing yield potential maps. And yes, we can create zones based off of those and then set the zone boundaries so that we can create sample plans and then have the results surfaced to those zones. The next question, can you set the grid to a number of points regardless of acres? To my knowledge, we don't have that functionality. within PCT at the moment, but that is something that we could take into account and possibly add in the future. There's another question. What about marking your points as you go? So that is one of our next features that we're looking at adding within the app. We don't currently have that, but it is at the or near the top of our priority list on adding that functionality within the app. Another one from Jorgen, how can I easily create RX maps based on soil analysis data? Do you provide executable file formats? So we do have quite a few prescription creating tools within PCT that can definitely be used and based on soil result layers. That would probably be an entire different webinar that we could do, and we are planning to do over prescription creation. And then as far as sending those prescriptions, we have the ability to download them as shapefiles, or we can send them on to our partners. So if you are, for example, connected to an Operations Center account, we can send that prescription file to Operations Center or directly to a machine from PCT. And just expounding a little bit on our prescription tools, we do have both a manual prescription option as well as a formula-based prescription option. And either of those can be utilized to create prescriptions based off of soil results. So are there tools available to place these sample points for a composite sample? Yes, that would be done just by clicking within the map and placing the points wherever you would like to drop those. We do also have a functionality where we can randomly place points within a zone map that's housed within our zone creation tool. So if you are looking for just a randomized set of points within the field, we do offer that as well. So another question, what's the difference between zone label numbers and zone numbers? So those would be the same. So the zone label numbers and zone numbers, that's just going to be based off of what is saved for the zones. So the zone labels don't have to be numerical. You can save them with any type of name there, so they can be based on soil type or a low, medium, high type of naming convention. So there is not any difference between the zone label numbers and zone numbers. And then from James, after receiving your sample results, if you have a formula set up, will a fertilizer recommendation automatically be generated? Yes, we do have that capability within our prescriptions tool. You can set formula-based prescriptions to run automatically as soon as those soil results come back from the lab. And again, we will cover that more in depth in future webinars. We do have some resources available that cover that process that you can go and find, and you can always reach out to us if you would like to set up just an individual meeting to go over those processes. So the next question says, on our end, the zone numbers and zone label numbers are different in each zone. So which number do we sample by? So we are looking to add an option to where we can place the numbered points according to the zone IDs. Currently, since we are able to save a zone ID as either a number or just a regular name or word, the option to do that isn't there currently. So that would need to be done either manually or adjusting the zone IDs so that they fit the automatic numbering of the points whenever you click the zone mode button. So the next question is about, I believe, marking off a point within the app. So whenever that feature is added, as well as any other features, we will be sending out some communication around that to notify the users that that functionality has been added. So the next question, what is the effort of a new soil lab to provide the soil lab analysis results in PCT Agcloud? So we contact the labs in order to set up an integration with them so that we can receive those results as well as send results from the app. We do also have the ability to do that just through the lab check-in sheet that provides the lab with a QR code that they can scan after completing the analysis and then send the results back to PCT that way as well. So there are two different options there, but we contact and work with the labs individually to establish those APIs. And it looks like I'll let Luke Pesic answer that question a little bit more in depth. There we go. Go ahead, Luke.
Question came from Europe. So we currently we need Modus XML, so we'd have to do a little more work to be able to recognize the results coming from your guys' lab, but certainly doable.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So coming in from Crop Dog here, when out in the field sampling, are the labels already attached per sample, or do you have to scan the QR code in the field? So that is one distinction. So that would be like in Ag World, they have a QR code tied to the label. We don't operate in that way. We have a specific ID number that is tied to each of those points, so the bags will be labeled accordingly prior to going out into the field and sampling. So there's no recording of those points in the field. You're just making sure that the points where you're pulling the soil from line up to the bags that you are placing that soil in. Okay, also from Jorgen, if I use John Deere Auto Track SF RTK guidance, can you send the sample points to the guidance system to drive exactly to the target sample position. To my knowledge, that's not available. We can navigate to the points within the Operations Center mobile app, but to my knowledge, the flags don't display within a John Deere monitor so that you can use those guidance capabilities. Also, are samplers satisfied with the mobile signal for accuracy, or is there a common RTK provider they are using? Um, so generally, for most sampling applications, it's just done based off of the GPS from the phone or iPad. You can buy external Bluetooth GPS receivers that do improve the accuracy a little bit. Um, to my knowledge, I don't know of any popular RTK providers for navigating to sample points. If there are any that anybody knows of, feel free um, to let us know through the chat. Looks like there was maybe one that came in here through the chat. So are you able to move points or drop extra points in the app? Not currently. That is, again, another feature that we are looking to add in future versions of the app. All right. Well, thank you for the questions. If there are any more, feel free to email those to us, or again, use the chat function within PCT. And then if you do have any other questions, you can, of course, also reference the support articles and videos. So thank you again, everybody that has joined. Again, if you are a AgWorld customer, please join the AgWorld specific sampling webinar here coming up at 2 p.m. Central. And we can cover any AgWorld specific questions there. So again, thank you all for attending, and we look forward to doing more of these webinars in the future and covering more of our tools and functions.